StarSpirit. 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 StarSpirit.
StarSpirit.
Be your higher self.
Hello. Happy New Year. Happy 2021, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to those of you who are joining us all over the globe. I'm so pleased to be hosting the Consciousness and Healing Initiative's first webinar of 2021 with a very esteemed guest. I've had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Barbara Wallace on a couple of occasions. Those of you who have connected with us during the Shift Festival last year might remember Dr. Wallace in our Health Equity panel. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her before we launch into what is going to be a really amazing discussion today on Indigenous shamanic wisdom and perhaps even the relationship of that with health equity. Dr. Barbara Wallace comes to us with really, of course, as usual with Chi, an incredible pedigree. She is an Ivy League trained academic who was the first African-American woman to receive tenure at Teachers College at Columbia University, where she serves as a professor of health education and director of health equity for the Center of Health Equity and Urban Science Education. Lots of other accolades. She's written over 9 books and is really pleased to share some other work that she's been engaged in that not everybody in the academic field actually knows about, and that is her work in shamanism and in African spiritual traditions. And I am, for one, so excited to learn from you and so excited that you're here with us, Dr. Wallace. Thank you. It's a great honor to have you with us.
It is a pleasure to be here. I'm truly honored. So should I share my screen?
Sure. I mean, you can. If you don't mind, since you're kind of new to some of us in the community of Chi, would you mind just maybe sharing a little bit from your perspective of what drew you to the work that you're doing, both, perhaps in health equity and your work in shamanism? We'd love to.
Well, let me just share my screen, because part of what you see is that below all of my academic credentials and titles and my affiliation with Columbia University, I'm also a queen mother, meaning that it was actually May 1999 that I went to a conference, and the individual being honored by I'm trying to remember the name of the actual conference. Oh yes, the International Congress of Black Women. So she was being honored, and Nana Karantma Ayabuafo was indeed the happiest person I had ever witnessed receiving an award. So I determined that I was going to go to her workshop after lunch. And indeed, it was perhaps the most powerful call to consciousness that I had ever heard. And so I immediately went up to Nana Karantma Ayabuafo after the workshop, introduced myself, and had a little chat. And she invited me to go to Ghana with her. So within about 8 weeks, I actually went to Ghana for a month and was exposed to the ancient shrines in Late Kubase, Ghana. And so the second time I went was the following December. And I actually prayed for 3 days that I would be of as much use as possible to the shrine that Nana Karantma has here in Philadelphia. And the answer that I got was Queen Mother. And I was like, what's a Queen Mother? I didn't even know what it was. And then it was New Year's Eve. And Nana Karantma traditionally does a New Year's Eve reading. And so, of course, I went to bed after a while because it can go on a while. And in the morning, she said that the shrine had told her that I should be put in the position of Queen Mother. I was like, oh, okay. So then it's New Year's Day, and we go to greet the elder of the particular family. And Nana Karantma is about to speak, and she says, stop. And then she says that I should be put in the position of Queen Mother. So it was like 3 separate confirmations. So it was a highly spiritual process. And so I really began my training with Nana Karantma for the position of being a Queen Mother, even as on January 6, 2000, I was formally put in that position. The term they use is to be installed or to be placed in this position. And it's really, installment represents the highest honor really in Ghanaian culture. And it was wonderful because the very first thing I needed to do was to learn how to be silent. while I'm hearing, I'm hearing a paragraph of conversation. I'm getting a one sentence translation. And so it was wonderful for that classic professor arrogance that I was now humbled and silent and listening and sitting at the feet of my elders. And so that's when it began. So now for some 21 years, almost 22 years, I've been on this journey where I've had the privilege of sitting aside someone who has devoted their life for over 40 years to communicating with what are called in this tradition a bosom, whether we call them oracles, whether we call them spiritual deities or very powerful forces. The idea is that it has been mind-blowing to go into a shrine with her and to be able to ask questions. The results have been 8 books that have come forth through the shrine. And it's been very exciting. So what I would like to really talk about today is the manner in which the last book that was brought forth by Nana Sujabi is called Awakening Beyond Physicality. And this is meant to be a practical guide for aligning with the higher self and divine source. And Nana Sujabi's wisdom is channeled by Nana Karantama from the realm of spirit. And I have the honor of doing what I love more than anything, and that is writing about consciousness and the expansion of consciousness, which is something I began to read about in 1976. So this is like the fulfillment of a dream that I just don't have to be an academic, but I can come out of the closet as a spiritual person, as someone who values more than anything my spiritual development. So I'm very grateful for this association. So today I'm going to talk about this approach to practical spiritual development and awakening beyond physicality in 16 simple steps. And there are some exercises that we may or may not have time to perform, but you certainly will get the idea and can perform them independently if you'd like. Some of the natural laws that guide our existence, as well as the important role of meditation, visualization, and affirmations. Now, when I informed the shrine that I was going to be giving this talk, Nana Sujabi wanted me to emphasize something, and that is that it's very important that we accept the invisible spiritual world, just as we've come to accept an invisible virus that we can't see. The idea is that we have to accept that the spiritual world exists and that it impacts our thoughts, our feelings, and our lives. And indeed, there's so many problems that we're having today that reflect the fact that there is not this acceptance and integration of spirituality into our lives. And yet another bosom actually talked about, her name is Nana A.C. Ketua. And Nana A.C. Ketua talked about the importance of values, that we are grounded in our values, given the occurrence of unbelievable human behavior. So she talked about a pestilence that was about to be unleashed. And this was in advance of what happened in Washington, D.C. So one of the things that when I'm doing this workshop, I probably have taught hundreds of people this affirmation over the past decades. And it's very simple. I am calm, centered, and balanced. So we can also combine this affirmation with visualizing something like perfection in nature. And so we can all, for example, at this point, close our eyes. We can visualize ourselves in a scene in nature, and we can repeat 9 times aloud, 9 times quietly inside, but we'll just do it 3 times aloud, just to give you an idea. I am calm, centered, and balanced. I am calm, centered, and balanced. I am calm, centered, and balanced. So the idea is that you see this stick figure here representing us doing this particular exercise. I literally tell my doctoral students that I can tell when they have not been doing this meditation is in terms of how they show up to class. And I'm convinced that the only way to complete a doctoral dissertation in a rapid 9-month period of time is if people are doing this particular affirmation. Steps along your journey of spiritual self-mastery. So I present this as 16 steps. And the first step is to awaken beyond physicality, the spiritual realm. And of course, this involves turning inward and to focus on the inner environment. And you may be visualizing all of this, the creative source, my higher self, my physical body, and my soul depicted as a vertical line, and we'll get to that. And so what is this symbol? It's a symbol of how we can reawaken to your true nature. So this is our true nature. And so one of the things that isn't mentioned, how there is the one active principle that allows for this column of light, that allows for us to be within this column of light where we are in our physical body, where there is the higher self and where there's the creative source. And so yes, might we recognize, that is the true me. And the idea is that here in my physical body, I am awakened to my true nature, and that I can see that my soul is depicted as a vertical line. My soul is like one ray radiating from the sun star. And I am a star, a soul, a ray of light, a beam of light, a being of light. I am divine. I am one with my higher self. I am one with creative source. And so imagine that I can literally turn inward, being still, calm, quiet, meditating. And I can visualize that image. I can also use affirmations. I'm committed to a daily spiritual practice of turning inward. I can visualize my true nature. I can close my eyes and not only visualize merging with my higher self, and also with the creative source, as the arrow suggests, these energies are going up, and I can experience the power of this through yet additional affirmations, such as, I am light, and you feel free to repeat where you are. I am light, glorious light, radiant light, pure consciousness light. I am light, glorious light, radiant light, pure consciousness light, as I visualize my true nature. And so what are the benefits of turning inward? I can achieve, as step 4, alignment with my higher self and the creative source. I can be self-aligned. I can visualize myself merging and establishing and accepting and fully integrating a relationship of connection with my higher self, and appreciate that my higher self is always one with the creative source. And in step 6, I may emerge self-realized through consciously experiencing and being ever present to my higher self as being one with the creative source, as is depicted here. And so again, the benefits. The idea is that we are cultivating a healthy inner environment. And this healthy inner environment involves a strong connection with your higher self. And as a result, you're more poised, you're more sensitized to what is going on within the outer environment. Healthy inner environment, more sensitized, more prepared to decide and determine what action to take in the outer environment. So this is very important. But what has created a challenge to being your true nature? Broadcasting and programming of misinformation. So here you are as this stick figure in the middle with these huge speakers. You know, we've got this station here, you know. I am just from all sources being bombarded and indeed programmed with what constitutes misinformation. And what's interesting is that this book was written in 2017. Imagine the extent to which we could elaborate on the programming of misinformation in the year 2019, in the year 2020. To what extent do we even look at the events in Washington, D.C. and talk about the power of broadcasting and programming of misinformation? But here we have a slightly different view, because we believe the goal is control. The goal is those seeking to control human beings have utilized the tool of broadcasting misinformation in the environment. But we've also been programmed by our parents, our family, teachers, society, media, the environment. And the goal is to achieve awareness of misinformation being broadcasted in the environment, to achieve awareness. And so what's being broadcasted? Are there desires that create imbalance? Okay. Is that manifested as consumerism, as greed? We certainly are programmed into values of domination and oppression. Hopefully we are grounded in yet other values besides dominating and oppressing others. Certainly we see white supremacy, white privilege, thanks to George Floyd, we now have globally the understanding that the United States is having a serious problem with systemic racism, with structural racism. And now that we see the very contrasting conduct of the police against Black Lives Matter in the summer and what happened in Washington, D.C. the other day, we can say, indeed, we have some serious issues with structural racism, systemic racism. What's being broadcast is that we should focus on the physical, focus on the body, focus on skin color. And the results are chaos, confusion, racism, separation. We're told to focus on differences, who's better than, who's less than, comparison, division. And the result is that here we are in the middle, or here are many individuals who are experiencing confusion and chaos, a loss of the sense of what is sacred. And that's what's so important. What is sacred? What is sacred? Losing the sense of what is sacred, losing our humanity. And so we're going to see that a big goal of all of this is to restore humanity, to make us more humane. And so imagine that a result of this programming is that our perceptions are not our own. So this is where we have individuals who are commenting on the events in Washington, D.C., in the Capitol building, and they're talking about the extent to which, do we talk about a cult? Do we talk about brainwashing? But long before, and what applies to so many of us, indeed all of us, is that to a certain extent, our perceptions are not our own. We perceive what we have been programmed and brainwashed to perceive. And what is the solution to what's been broadcasted? That we have to return to our true nature, that we have to establish a new divine intention or goal. And this requires seeing beyond the programming of misinformation and returning to our true nature. And so we're going to go from the broadcasting to returning to our true nature here at step 7. And so how do we return to our true nature? And again, from this state of being misaligned, we're going to return to being aligned, doing our daily spiritual practice of turning inward. Is it Om? Is it Om? Is it I am light, glorious light? What affirmation, what decree, what are we repeating? What are we visualizing? Are we sitting in silence and meditating? And so here we're offering an array of possibilities for how you can begin to create that daily spiritual practice so that you can return to your true nature. And so once you are in this state of balance, and I might even say here that we have, by virtue of these exercises, we are invoking the law of divine order, because from this balance, from this I am calm, centered, and balanced, and this state of alignment that results, we can now talk about the next steps. Okay, so how is it that everything is in divine order if I am doing my daily spiritual practice? How is it that I can now fulfill my divine purpose because of my daily spiritual practice? I am calm, centered, and balanced, my visualization. And so the idea is that now that I am in this state of balance, as opposed to pursuing consumerism or greed or racism or participating in structural racism, I am now in a position to create a new goal that's not based on the perceptions that other people have programmed us with. That now I can, what is my felt need? How am I discerning my purpose in life? And it will surely reflect balance and divine order. And so I'm now establishing a new divine intention, and this requires knowing your goal. Okay, so I may now intuit my goal. I go within, I'm quiet, I'm silent. And what is the goal that emerges? Okay, what is my purpose? What is my felt need? And so it requires action to manifest, surely. And so now this next step is practical action. And the third step is manifesting here on step 9. And we see on step 10, I will take 3 actions for manifesting my new goal. And so what are these 3 actions? And so there is the concept of releasing. I release patterns of behavior. And we'll get to the exercise in a minute. But the idea is on step 11, first I will release. And that release is going to make room for new patterns, for new goals. So the release ritual. And so this is something that we might actually do together.
Great. Yeah.
Lots of tissues. And the idea is that I'm making room for a new intention, a new purpose or goal. And so I release. If you have your tissue or anything, I release. And so just to give an example, I release all patterns of unhealthy eating, arrogance. That's a big one for me. Dislike of those who look down on me or hate me. I release all greed, worry, doubt. So you could just take a moment and you might just whisper into your napkin what it is that you're releasing. And so next I throw the tissue in a trash can or flush it down the toilet. And imagine if we took 5-10 minutes doing this exercise, it can be quite transformational for people. But I practice turning inward and receive benefits. So the idea is, again, I've made room for my new intentions, purpose, or goal, and I can now practice turning inward and receive benefits. And there's going to be 13 specific benefits that I will highlight. And so here I am turning inward, doing one of these many ways in which I may create my daily spiritual practice of turning inward. The benefits are enhanced perception. What am I perceiving? Not only as possibilities, but what's going on in the environment, inner peace and enhanced ability to feel, because my humanity is also returning. To the extent that I was cold or callous or could engage in violence, I'm becoming someone who can now feel. I'm experiencing alignment with my higher self. I'm experiencing enhanced intuition, greater intuitive knowing, and inspired action. In other words, again, it's not the perceptions that I've been programmed to perceive, that I have been urged, things I've been urged to see, actions I've been urged to engage in, but I now have greater intuitive knowing, and that knowing inspires my action. I can intuit higher knowledge and wisdom. I achieve inner balance. I'm being more humane, and this is a huge one, because we can take action to better care for ourselves, for the human family, for the environment, for the planet. So there is a huge part of this book that was largely inspired by the fact that Mother Earth is in pain and suffering, that the planet, the abuses, the pollution, the actions of human beings that have been destructive to the environment. We can also benefit in terms of feeling more empowerment and having ongoing healing and improved health, and of course, balanced outer action, and knowing and living and being one with the creative source. And of course, fulfillment in life with continual blessings from the creative source. And we'll come back to that, continual blessings from the creative source. And so this is also an introduction to an exercise. And this one is called Joyful Expression of Gratitude with Visualization of Fulfillment of the Goal. Okay, so in other words, what happens if I have joy? Yes, I combine it with gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I visualize my image or goal fulfilled. Yes, yes. Okay. And so this is what you see us doing with great excitement. And the idea is that this is the actions that we can engage in for manifesting our goal, to combine joy and gratitude and the visual image of our goal fulfilled. And certain laws are activated. So I'll explain what we're seeing here on step 13. So what are some of these laws that are being activated? The law of divine order, I partly explained: vibration, resonance, attraction, reciprocity, abundance, opulence, all for attracting into our life our goals, that felt need, our purpose, our intention. And so this combining of joy with gratitude, thank you, and visualizing the images of our goal fulfilled, it activates the law of vibration, the energy of my joyful expression, of your joyful expression of gratitude, the energy of the visual image I'm holding in mind of the fulfillment of my desire, my goal. It is now pure energy or light of a high vibration. And it's going to activate the law of resonance and the law of attraction so that you're vibrating on a high frequency, and your visual image that is now pure energy or light or a high vibration is going to attract to you what's also vibrating at a high frequency, as like attracts like. And this is going to activate the law of reciprocity. The creative source will give back to you and reciprocates to you. And of course, in terms of ultimately delivering to you the gift and blessing of your goal. And this is going to activate the law of abundance and the law of opulence so that you're going to receive from creative source what is also of high frequency. And that is the manifestation of your goal as a gift and blessing from the creative source. And so this is a powerful exercise. And so because we're in our individual pods and are muted, we can all do this exercise. So what we're going to do is, we might just repeat, I am calm, centered, and balanced. And from this state, is there a goal that comes to mind? What is your goal, your felt need, your purpose? And so with that visual image held in mind of your goal, fulfilled, in other words, not, what happened last year? No, this is your goal. It is fulfilled. It is manifested. I have already achieved what it is I am desiring, my felt need, my goal. And so I combine gratitude and joy. And what's going to happen is, you see the yellow is the creative source through reciprocity and all the other laws. Now that goal is being delivered, manifest. It comes down. It is here with me. Of course, it could be, this is just for purposes of our three-dimensional reality, okay? And so it's coming to me, but look what's also there. Look what's also there. Dr. Jane is also there, and she has the same goal in mind, healing and consciousness. And so I both attracted her into my life as well as possibilities for fulfilling my goal. And so let's do it. Let's do it together. So hold in mind that visual image. And now we're going to combine joy. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm telling you at home, do it as loudly as you can. Hold in mind that visual. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I see it. Thank you. It's here. It's with me. Thank you. Thank you. And so, yes, it can get you a little bit winded, but the idea is go for it.
Amazing. I have to say, I had to mute myself to do that.
Yes.
I really wanted to do it.
You want to do this for multiple goals. All right? And so the idea is that the goal manifests as a gift. And here you are on step 13, holding the gift of your goal. And indeed, you can do this exercise again and again for many different goals, and they can manifest as gifts. So for my doctoral students, we would have our seminar in person, and we would do, I am calm, centered, and balanced, and then I would have them all visual. Okay, we're at graduation. Can you see yourself at graduation? See yourself at graduation. See your family. Yes, thank you. So the idea is that whatever the goal might be, again, many goals will manifest, and the benefit of number 13, fulfillment in life with continual blessings from the creative source. And on step 16, we achieve self-mastery. Our 16 steps have been fulfilled. You can see I've merged with my higher self. I've experienced oneness. I am that I am. I am one with the creative source. And so I'm self-aligned, I'm self-realized, I have an expanded consciousness. I am devoted to my daily spiritual practice, but I'm also devoted to service, because one of the things that occurs is that my concerns about the outer environment allow me to engage in service as well. A good example of this is Sadhguru, who it's not just about the spiritual practice, it's about planting trees, it's about climate, it's about the environment. So for all of us, that is our role model for how our lives should also reflect service. And this self-mastery, let's see. Okay, 16, all right. And then we also have the use of affirmations. Okay, and again, this is a very powerful. And so we might just repeat each one of them, just where you are, mute yourself. I am calm, centered, and balanced. I am the commander of my life. I am healing every day in every way. I am healing physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually every day in every way. I added this one because this is the one that I actually gave to someone recently, and it's been very powerful for them. I am healing in heart, mind, body, and spirit every day in every way. I am gratitude. I am grateful for the gift of life. I am my higher self. I am one with my higher self. I am one with the divine source. I am one with the creative source. I am one with my higher self, and I am one with creative source. I am the fulfillment of the divine plan for my life. I am the fulfillment of the divine plan for my life. I am living my life's purpose. I am in divine order. Everything is in divine order. I am opulence manifesting in every area of my life. I am broadcasting opulence. I am that I am. I am one with the creative source. I am that I am. I am gratitude in manifestation. I am grateful to have presented. And so in terms of health equity, I would say that I would hope that it would be a value in which we can ground ourselves. Because this nation and this global community is going to be challenged to examine structural racism, systemic racism. And it will be urgent that we finally begin to work on solutions. And hopefully those of us on this call can begin to affirm that we are also partners in this global effort to ensure equity in health for all, whether we perceive that in terms of the current pandemic and virus, or we perceive that goal in terms of how the pandemic has revealed sharp disparities in health, in particular for African Americans, Latinx population, and Native American populations. And so you will not believe that I actually went through approximately 60 slides
Wow.
in record time.
Wow, that is so nicely done. Oh, Dr. Wallace, I mean, thank you. This was amazing. And I hope I speak for many people with us, to just say your energy, your joy, your enthusiasm, your reminder of what the felt experience is like when we come back to divine source, right? I mean, you just exemplified that for us. So I want to thank you so much for that. And I'm thrilled because we do have some time to talk and we have some time for questions. And I just want to remind folks, especially those of you who might be new to us, one of the awesome benefits for us joining live is to be able to interact together and to be able to ask Dr. Wallace questions that you might have. So if you're joining us on Zoom, the easiest way to do that is when you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little button there that says Q&A, right? And so I want to invite you to submit your questions. I will see them. Only it looks like only I will be able to see them in Dr. Wallace, but if you do that, that'd be great. I see someone raising their hand, which is awesome. The way this particular setup is, it'll be easiest for you to type in your question in Q&A because I don't think we're set up on this system to be able to call on you directly as much as I would love to do that. So please do throw in your questions in the Q&A on the bottom. And while we're orienting to that, first of all, thank you, Dr. Wallace.
I had no idea it would only take 30 minutes.
It's beautiful. Well, no, you were in the flow. I mean, that was it. It was flowing exactly as it should. I mean, if you don't mind, maybe just so people can see you a little bit more largely on screen.
Yes.
exit out of your presentation, then, we'll really be able to see you more largely, which would be really great.
Wonderful.
So, you've given us a lot of really incredible reminders, and it couldn't be more timely, right? It couldn't be more timely for all the reasons that you just mentioned toward the end of your presentation and where we are. There has been a sense of separatism, of hopelessness. And, even the title of your presentation is pretty provocative. And I just wanted to clarify, your meaning. I believe what your meaning was around awakening beyond physicality. There's always been this sense, in the spiritual traditions, and sometimes kind of a missense, if you will, that when we talk about moving beyond physicality, we're not saying that you need to ignore the physical body. I mean, I think you help break that down really well by saying when you connect with your divine nature, you're realizing that it's not just the physical. So it's not that the physical doesn't matter. We're embodied beings, we're spiritual beings in a physical experience. But the issue, as I understand it, that you're reminding us about is when we only think that we're in the physical, that, our bodies are the only thing that matters, that, we don't have control over our own health because we're all skin and bones and chemicals and nothing else. Or, that our skin color is something that separates us, and we forget that we're all unified spirits, part of the one. I think you were alluding to that. So I'm just wondering if you have any more that you'd like to elaborate on, around this relationship between the spiritual and physical.
Well, you're reminding me of a couple of things. One is that despite the things that are going on, this is actually a period of the Great Awakening. This is actually a golden age that we are in. This is a marvelous time to be alive. The conditions are ideal for one's spiritual development. And the idea is that, of course, we are to take care of our physical bodies. Indeed. That off. Indeed, we are, that as a result of going in and engaging in daily spiritual practice and creating a good internal environment that we may be awakening to, that we are certainly, we get hungry, we need to go to sleep, we have other physical urges, but the idea is that we have to accept that so many of our thoughts and feelings and aspects of our lives are influenced by the spiritual realm. And that if we cultivate our inner environment, we will actually become more humane and also more humane toward ourselves, gentler with ourselves, and we'll take better care of ourselves. That if I engage in a daily spiritual practice, I'm more inclined to choose the healthy food or the healthy beverage as opposed to the one that is less desirable. So the two are intricately related. I'm always in my physical body as long as I'm alive, unless, of course, I'm a guru and I'm meditating and ascending and coming back down on a regular basis. But for those of us who are mostly human, that we're in our physical bodies. And so it cannot be escaped. Yet what is inside? And so imagine that a part of this golden age, a part of this time of a great awakening, it requires us to also awaken and to expand our awareness so that it includes the inner environment, the inner self, the higher self, the creative source, and that direct connection that we have. And that is so essential to us making the very best decisions for ourselves and also for humanity and the planet.
Beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit more about, from this tradition, how is that source described? For example, I come from the Jan tradition, and we talk about Atman, and it's interesting because actually the Jan tradition talks about the divinity as not necessarily being all part of the one the way Hinduism does, or, the Vedic traditions with Brahman, where we're all one. Jainism believes in that, but they also believe in this existence of individual souls. And so even at the soul level, people are unique. So there are all of these different spiritual traditions that talk about the nature of the divine source. And I'm wondering if you can break that down for us a little bit more. How do you all understand it from your perspective?
Well, I think that the uniqueness is conveyed. There's just, you're just one ray of light, but it's not to say that you're necessarily better than, less than, but you are just your own unique ray of light. I would say that in this tradition, the Akan in Ghana, which is the formal name of the tradition, which also comes specifically out of the Nene Akonedi shrine. Nene Akonedi Shrine of Late Kubase, Ghana. And here we talk, the word for God is Nyami. And the idea is that the Abusum, and Nana Sujbi, who brought forth this information, is one of them, that these basically are spiritual workers for God, however God is called. And so they are workers. You know, sometimes they will refer to themselves as like palace servants, you know, as an expression of their humility. There's yet another one, Nana Bwafo Tigere, and that was really the first book that we brought forth in 2005, who is an angel, an archangel, who describes himself as having come forth from the womb of creation, having come forth from the womb of creation, okay, with the angelic host, and that he first appeared in Africa with the very first humans who stood upright in their dreams.
Wow.
And beyond that, then when he saw one human being taking advantage of another, then he would intervene and would possess, for example, on one human being to basically stop these kinds of abuses. So the idea is that there is very much a hierarchy. We also acknowledge ancestors, ancestors who upon their transition return to their village, ancestors who may continue to communicate. There's one ancestor in the particular family to which I became a member as a queen mother, which is actually a very large clan, but you may not understand the word clan, so I don't, I'm trying not to use it. So we use family. And the idea is that there's a story of one of our ancestors, Nana Enima, who, as an elder, was dancing at Nakom. And Nakom is a spiritual ceremony where individuals are dancing while they are possessed by spirits and drumming, and it's extremely organized. It's like a formula. It's very precise. Some people get it precisely, like Nana Karantwai Bwafo. Others are like, perhaps not. And the idea is that at one of these ceremonies where there was dancing and drumming and possession, that Nana Enima, as a human being, jumped in the air and ascended.
Wow.
And so that's the nature. And so for us, and so for Nana Enima to also now have a shrine and to be able to communicate it's just a real blessing indeed. So that's the nature of the hierarchy. There are ancestors that have also become higher spiritual beings. And then there also are those spiritual deities who basically came to the head priestess of the Nene Akonedi Shrine in order to assist with her mission. So there was actually someone called Nana Aparibia who Nana Sujibi came to many decades ago because it was her dream. She knew that she had lost children who had been captured and enslaved in Africa, who had reincarnated in the United States, like Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., or many urban centers where there are a lot of Black individuals. And it was her dream and her goal to find her lost children. And so with 9 trips to America and a long story, the bottom line is that she found them.
Wow.
And so Nana Sujibi came to her decades ago to specifically help her with that mission. So it's really, and so my installment as a Queen Mother also represents the reunification of the family. Those African Americans who were captured, enslaved, and reincarnated with our family who are still alive.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, so it's,
I mean, it's profound and it's beautiful. And it, you know, again, kind of, it relates so much to what is happening now. And I feel like one of the messages that I'm getting from our whole discussion today is about kind of coming back to oneself, coming back to one's clan, as you say, or family, yes. Remembering all of our interconnections, even in previous lives, you know, and it's beautiful to hear this from you, because I've heard similar things, for example, from Reverend Rosalind Bruyere, who was just, you know, part of our Ask Me Anything session last month, where, you know, from the Tibetan Bon Pro tradition, there's much of this teaching that goes on as well. you know, and I've been learning from her for many years, and from the wisdom and the deities, or you can say the ancestors, that she channels as well. So it's really interesting to me when I see these parallels in our cultures, you know, in different cultures, that, you know, that they're all speaking with the same truths and the same sort of pathways of the spiritual assistance that's really
Yes.
here.
As a matter of fact, let me tell you a story that we were actually, Nana Karantma and I were actually at a gathering for the Guru Sai Ma. And of course, you know, many of the classic Hindu statues are there with garlands of roses. And so during the break, Nana Karantma goes up to one of the statues. And basically she hears one statue talking to the other saying, "This is Nana Aparibia's child." In other words, this represents the Indian Hindu tradition. And somehow they know that the head priestess of the Nini Akonedi shrine, who trained Nana Karantma Ayabuafo in a way that she didn't train anyone else who was an African American, it's just, and said, this is her child. She heard them talking about her. It's like, so there is one spiritual pantheon. There is one spiritual pantheon.
Yeah.
Just, there's one.
Wow.
Okay, so question.
I mean, what we could go on that.
I know we could go on and on.
There's so much to explore that. I want to honor the questions that our friends are asking here, and yes. I'll start sharing some of those too. And a lot of them, you know, a couple of them are very practical, and I love it. You know, we need practical tips now to kind of, you know, realign with our spiritual core and our spiritual axis. So questions from Aditi as well as others are, you know, first, let's get real here. We'll actually start with a question from, and I apologize, this is new for me to be embarrassed to pronounce someone's name and pronounce it incorrectly. So please forgive me if I'm not pronouncing this correctly. Ragildur, I think. Ragnildur is how I'm going to pronounce this person's name, and I hope I did it correctly. And Ragnildur asks, can you please share any advice or exercises to help one deal with and or dissolve negative emotions, such as hate, anger, resentment, and blame? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, a lot of us are feeling those things right now, and they're natural emotions. We would love to hear your wisdom, Dr. Wallace.
So what you want to do, the release exercise that I just talked about, you know, you have your tissue, you have a trash can or a toilet to flush it in, but really take time. Really close your eyes and take time. You know, I am releasing all anger. And it's just for you. I'm releasing all hate. I'm releasing all frustration. Okay. But the most important thing is that what's going to really help to align you is going to be, I am calm, centered, and balanced. So if you can just start by repeating that 9 times when you get off this call, if you can commit that every morning, you know, even before you get out of bed or after you go to the bathroom, even permission to do it before you brush your teeth. The point is to get aligned, okay? And to repeat, I am calm, centered, and balanced. If you can do it for 10 minutes, if you can work up to 15 and then 20 minutes, that alone is going to begin to transform you. So I would say that just something as simple as repeating, I am calm, centered, and balanced. Calm, no anxiety. Centered and balanced, okay, no depression. Correcting your misalignment. You're going to invoke the law of divine order. Everything is in divine order. When things go wrong during the day, just say everything's in divine order. I may not see it now. Like I have no idea why that bus driver just went past me. I have no idea why I have a flat tire on I-95. Everything is in divine order. Even if I cannot see how. Okay, just to repeat it and just to do it regardless of how angry or horrible things may be. And so hopefully those things can be helpful.
That's beautiful. And yeah, just to kind of recap, I mean, you picked a couple of really great, you know, aspects that we work with when we're trying to release negative emotions. One is the actual releasing itself, and you just gave us a ritual to do that, you know, the tissues as an example. The other is to realign with your own spiritual axis and remember the opposite of who you are, which is I am calm, centered, and balanced. And then the other is sort of the surrender and trust aspect of it, right? Which is, everything is in divine order, even if I can't see that right now, because I might be in that conditioned
That's
space
right. That's
that's
right.
causing me to react.
And
Right.
I will just add that if you begin to do this, when you are feeling stress, you will observe that you will automatically start to repeat it inside in a stressful situation. I mean, that happened to me at one point at the end of October. And of course, I'm telling everyone this, do this, this is what's going to happen. And then I was like, whoa, I'm repeating, I am calm, certain, and balanced. And yes, I am pretty upset right now. And so it was perfect. And so until you get to that point, anything that happens during the day, just begin to repeat it. I'm calm, centered, and balanced. Okay,
That's
next.
beautiful. Well, thank you. Yeah. So Aditi asked a similar question, which was sharing tips on how often should we be repeating these affirmations and these practices into our routine. And I think you kind of helped answer that already by
Yeah. So, I'm stressed out, just repeat it at least 3 times. I'm in the middle of a meeting and my department chair is being the biggest jerk in the world. I am calm, centered, and balanced. Just repeat it 3 times silently within.
beautiful.
9 times in general, but if you're in your car, on the subway.
Beautiful. And Aditi asks, what are some signs we might want to look out for to know that we're actually developing spiritually?
You may feel calmer. You may feel less anxious. You may notice that you're feeling less depressed, less angry. You may observe that you're more able to follow instructions, which is what I have my doctoral students do it as a mandatory exercise, because it's vital that they learn how to follow instructions. So just, it's like, as opposed to an ocean that is rough with huge waves, you become like calm ocean.
So beautiful. So beautiful. So Kimberly is actually, and Kimberly, thank you. I just happened to notice your question in chat. I just want to remind people, I will find your questions if you click on the Q&A button if you can, and write it there, because I might miss it if it's in the chat window. But this question comes from Kimberly and is a very interesting one. My ancestors often come in my dreams. Can you speak about dreaming? So she wants to know a little bit more about, especially when you encounter someone in the dream or an ancestor or spirit, is that real? Is there any guidance on how to work with our dreams and make spiritual contact that way?
It is very, very common to dream about an ancestor, particularly after their passing. So there are many individuals who treasure their first dream about a deceased ancestor. It's like, oh, I dreamt about my father. Oh, I dreamt about my mother. Whether you see it as a good omen, the classic way that I approach the interpretation of dreams involves that everyone in the dream represents a part of yourself. And so you have to ask yourself, well, when I think of this person, what do I think of? Okay, so it could be that it's a dream that's merely symbolic, that it's representing a part of myself that may have certain attributes of that person. So for example, whenever I dream about Nana Karantam, I'm like, oh, that represents my highest spiritual self. So what is my highest spiritual self telling me? Okay.
Right.
So it depends. There are also individuals who actually feel as though they see, I might find out at 8 a.m. that my great aunt died, but it's possible that I woke up at 5:30 in the morning and I saw her sitting at the foot of my bed, or I'm able to close my eyes and I feel as though I connect and see this deceased individual. So I would say that in general, for purposes of sanity, these are not the kind of experiences you want to seek out, but if we have them, they are okay. It's to accept them. And if anything, you might want to explore what the meaning might be for you, because it likely is a very individual kind of meaning.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love the reflection that, I think many people have that even when people outside of us come into our dreams, they're often reflecting some aspect of ourselves that we've attributed to that person. So how do we feel about that person? And what could be the message from that part of our unconscious or subconscious that, is trying to guide us into a particular place, right? That's really wonderful. So Nedra has some really wonderful comments and questions as well. We'll get to what she has to share. First, she wants to say, it's inspiring to see academics and scientists embracing the awakening of consciousness within us individually and the collective. We agree. Do you have any advice as to how we create this conversation as more culturally acceptable in politics, business, and society? Because I think, we all feel that this is key, right? As you said, if we don't move beyond physicality in the way that we're addressing how we relate to each other in all of these different factors of society, we're not going to move forward in the way that we know we can and that we want to. So how do we do that? Could you share from your experiences, what you found helpful?
Connecting with you. I think that, this is as I said, this is my spiritual coming out party. If you didn't know, I have been obsessed with one goal for, since I was like 20. And that was, my goal is to ascend. That my goal is to develop my spiritual self. I feel as though I'm one of those individuals from Pleiades who volunteered for a spiritual mission. Send me, I'll go. I want to help save Earth. And so, we're all here. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that I'm more than a professor. I'm more than a poet. I'm more than an artist. That I'm someone who is as committed to helping to save this planet and to expand consciousness and to help manifest this golden age. And so more of us have to do that. So I think that is the beginning, that it's your work that has allowed a space for me to share this work. And so how do things expand and potentially blossom? And it's critical. It's critical for our healing. That's part of what you're going to hear coming out of Joe Biden's mouth, that he's a devout Catholic. And so what concepts of love or unity or peace is he going to be speaking here in the United States? And what other scientists globally may also do as I am and share? But it's happening.
It is happening. We are coming out. And I think you hit on a few key things. So being authentic and feeling like you've got a base of community with, where you have a safe space to be authentic. And you're absolutely right, Barbara. And thank you for sharing that, because that is why we developed the Consciousness and Healing Initiative, because we recognized that there needed to be a safe space for our fellow scientists, and our healing practitioners to come together and share, but also, especially for the scientists, we still hear. It's really, this community is really important, helping foster that safe space for people to just come out of the closet. Some people have called it that. I would say just a space for us to be authentic, and a space for us to be free with who we are as who we all really are, right? Embodied souls. And
exactly.
All of our gifts. That's what it's about. So the more we show up like that, and you certainly have, the more, as you said, you laid it all out for us in your webinar. That's how we attract community.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
That's beautiful. So Yvonne asks, can we send this, these kinds of practices, can we send this and, the kind of the benefits that we get from our practice to others that are in pain, whether it's emotional or physical pain? So in this realm of healing others, do you have any advice on how we might use some of these practices for those purposes?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind involves, energy medicine, or the idea that you can actually send quantum energy, healing energy to a person. Concepts like Reiki, that's what comes to mind. That may not be the answer that you're looking for, but the idea is that that's one thing that we can do. There's research that shows that, the group that was prayed for, had better outcome from surgery than the group that wasn't prayed for. So there's that, but there's also exploring ways in which you can send quantum energy to individuals for their healing. So I'll leave it at that.
Sure. And I mean, I think that many of the folks, if you're new to our community, then keep sticking around, please. Because, for example, our next webinar will be with Donna Eden, where she's going to share very specific biofield practices for healing others. We have a lot of folks in our community who do that work. And so we're going to continue to learn from each other. And I know that, Barbara, you do that as well. It's not something that can be easily answered in a minute's time, though.
Right.
And I also want to just note and honor, we just got a slew of questions that just came in, and we might have to invite Barbara back for an Ask Me Anything session so that, we can really dive into more.
Well, I would love to be asked anything.
Yeah, that'll be really fun. And stay tuned, y'all, because we have some really exciting things that we're going to be offering, in the educational realm with Chi, with all of these amazing teachers that we have together, including you, Barbara. So super excited for that. I know we're running short on time. So one last thing, Pamela's asking, what is the best way to share this presentation with more people? We want to share the good news that, first of all, right now, this is streaming on Facebook, so you're welcome to share it that way. You can also come back to your registration link. We will be sharing the replay of this webinar for 48 hours for everyone, to make sure everyone across the world gets a chance to see it, because some of you might be snoozing right now and, in different parts of the world. We want to make sure all of this is accessed. We also want to remind people that we are a nonprofit that forwards the science and practice of healing, and we can't do this without your support. So if you want to continue to tap into Barbara's wisdom on this webinar and others, please join us as a contributor. And Barbara, tell us please about how we
go to StarSpirit.com. StarSpirit, StarSpirit.com.
Okay.
And yes, and it can be ordered. Now, if you are, I must say that Nana Karantam is avoiding the post office as much as possible because of the pandemic. So I'm not so sure. I want you to order it and expect it, but yes, I've avoided putting it on Amazon, but it may be time to. But
it might be time to do that. Yeah, it might be time to do that. So StarSpirit, and we've just put the link in there. And Barbara, how else can people be in contact with you?
Yes, so BCW3 at tc.columbia.edu. So BCW Barbara Cornelia Wallace, BCW3 at TC for Teachers College, tc.columbia.edu.
Awesome. Wow. Well, Barbara, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll hope to have you back for an Ask Me Anything session soon. And thanks so much for your wisdom and giving us such beautiful, beautiful, joyful energy to start off the new year.
Thank you. I am so grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you. Us too.
Okay.
Be well. Be well, everybody.